Welcome back to Paranightmares, where the night whispers and we listen. If creepy tales and unsettling shadows are your kind of lullaby, you're in the right place. Before we descend into tonight's darkness, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're from and what time you're watching. After you finish the video, let us know which part made your skin crawl most. I'm watching, and I read everyone. The humid September evening pressed against Mobile, Alabama, the air thick with the scent of salt from the nearby bay and a faint, sour tang, like spoiled milk left in the sun. The Dollar Tree on Airport Boulevard stood alone in a cracked parking lot, its neon sign flickering, casting jagged shadows across the asphalt. I, Hannah Greer, 28, a cashier at a nearby diner, had stopped by after my shift to grab cheap candles for my apartment. My life was a mess, evicted from my last place after missing rent, crashing with a friend, and dodging calls from my ex, who'd spread lies about me stealing from him. The store, a squat brick building with faded posters, promised everything for $1. But the reviews on Yelp mentioned odd things, aisles that seemed to shift, items moving on their own, and a cashier named Vera who stared too long. My sister, Lily, had warned me about discount stores, citing my nightmares, waking at 3:33 a.m., hearing footsteps in an endless aisle. I needed those candles to feel grounded, but this Dollar Tree held something that knew my desperation. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed, casting a sickly yellow glow over shelves stuffed with off-brand snacks, plastic toys, and seasonal decor. The air was stale, heavy with a musty odor that clung to my throat. Vera, a wiry woman in her 50s with sunken cheeks and eyes like polished glass, stood at the register, her name tag crooked. "Welcome," she said, her voice a low rasp, her gaze locking onto mine as if peeling back my skin. "Rules: don't linger in aisle 7, don't touch the mirrors, and leave before closing." Her smile was thin, her fingers twitching as she handed me a basket. I nodded, uneasy, and headed toward the candle section. Aisle 7, marked by a warped sign reading Home Goods, stretched longer than the others, its shelves packed with mismatched plates and cracked glassware. A small, round mirror hung at the end, its surface smudged with what looked like fingerprints. "Why no mirrors?" I asked, glancing back. Vera's eyes glinted. "They show things you don't want to see." She turned away, her shadow stretching too far across the floor. I grabbed a basket and moved through the aisles, the store eerily quiet, no other customers in sight. The candles were in aisle 6, but as I turned, I found myself in aisle 7, the shelves looming taller, the air colder. The floor tiles were cracked, some missing, revealing a dark, damp concrete beneath. A faint hum, like static from a broken radio, pulsed in my ears. I reached for a candle, but my hand brushed a mirror, its surface icy, the smudges shifting into shapes, eyes, mouths, my face, but distorted, screaming. I yanked my hand back, my skin stinging, marked with faint, fingerprint-like bruises. The hum became a whisper, my voice, but not. "Hannah, you took what wasn't yours." My heart raced. I spun around, but the aisle stretched endlessly, the exit gone. The shelves seemed to lean in, items rattling, plates clinking, toys squeaking, though nothing moved. I stumbled forward, calling for Vera, but my voice echoed, swallowed by the hum. My phone showed no signal, its screen flickering with an image I hadn't taken. Me in aisle 7, my eyes wide, surrounded by shadows with too many fingers. I checked my basket. It held a mirror I didn't pick up, its frame etched with smudges that pulsed like veins. On Reddit/NoSleep, a post titled "Mobile Dollar Tree Trap" by Lost in Aisle 7 described a store like this, where aisle 7 stretched forever, mirrors showing your guilt, and Vera laughing as customers vanished. "The host keeps it fed," they wrote, their account deleted. Another post mentioned a local legend. A cashier in the 1980s, wronged by thieves, bound a spirit to aisle 7, trapping liars in its mirrors. I tried to backtrack, but the aisle looped, the shelves rearranging, the hum now a chant. "Stay, Hannah." The bruises spread, fingerprint-like marks creeping up my arms, burning with each whisper. My phone kept flashing new photos, me, trapped, my face melting into the mirror's glass. Vera appeared at the aisle's end, her smile wider, her eyes reflecting my own. "The aisle knows," she said, her hand grazing my marked arm, the pain blinding. I emailed Dr. Amos Reed, a mobile historian, sending photos of my marks. He met me at a nearby Waffle House, his face grim. "Those are the aisle's marks," he said. "Vera's grandmother, cashier, cursed aisle 7 after a theft, binding a spirit to trap the guilty." He showed a 1985 journal. Shoppers vanishing, their faces in mirrors, their lies etched into shelves. "Break the main mirror," he urged. That night, the store was open past closing. The hum deafening, the air thick with must. I smashed the mirror in aisle 7, revealing a void of writhing shadows. Vera's form flickered, her laughter echoing as the shelves collapsed. I fled, the store dissolving into fog. In my apartment, the marks faded, but my sketches showed me trapped, and my reflection whispered my name. The October heat clung to Savannah, Georgia, the air heavy with the scent of Spanish moss and a faint, cloying sweetness like perfume gone rancid. The Dollar Tree on Abercorn Street stood in a strip mall, its windows plastered with faded Halloween posters, the parking lot littered with leaves that skittered like whispers. I, Mia Chun, 27, a barista scraping by, stopped by after a late shift to grab cheap decorations for my roommate's birthday party. My life was unraveling, fired from a previous job for snapping at a customer, couch surfing with friends, my temper alienating everyone. The store promised bargains galore, but online reviews on Reddit are /Weird Savannah mentioned eerie details, dolls that seemed to move, aisles that felt alive, and a cashier, Dolores, whose stare made your skin crawl. My brother, Sam, had warned against discount stores, citing my nightmares, waking at 2:22 a.m., hearing giggles and tiny footsteps. I needed those decorations to keep things light, but this Dollar Tree held something that saw my anger. Inside, the fluorescent lights flickered, casting jagged shadows over shelves crammed with plastic pumpkins, off-brand candy, and porcelain dolls with cracked faces. The air was thick, smelling of dust and that sickly sweet rot. Dolores, a gaunt woman in her 60s with wiry hair and eyes like clouded marbles, stood at the register, her name tag pinned askew. "Welcome," she said, her voice a soft hiss, her gaze pinning me like a moth. "Rules: don't touch the dolls in aisle 9, don't turn your back on them, and leave before 10 p.m. Her fingers twitched as she handed me a basket, her nails yellowed. I nodded, unsettled, and headed toward the party supplies. Aisle 9, marked seasonal, was cluttered with dolls, porcelain, rag, plastic, their eyes glinting under the lights, some chipped, others too perfect. A cracked porcelain doll sat at the aisle's end, its gaze following me. "Why avoid the dolls?" I asked. Dolores' lips curled. "They don't like being touched." She turned away, her shadow twisting unnaturally across the ceiling. I grabbed a basket, weaving through aisles, but the store felt wrong. Too quiet, no other shoppers. The party supplies were in aisle 8, but I found myself in aisle 9, the dolls' eyes seeming to shift, their heads tilted slightly. The air grew colder, the sweetness now overpowering, like rotting flowers. I reached for streamers, but my hand brushed a doll, its porcelain icy, its eyes blinking, impossible yet real. My wrist stung, marked with faint, crescent-shaped welts like tiny bites. A giggle, high and childlike, echoed, followed by a whisper in my voice. "Mia, you hurt them." My heart raced. I turned, but aisle 9 stretched endlessly, the exit gone, the shelves closing in, dolls rattling faintly, arms twitching, heads turning. My phone showed no signal, its screen flashing a photo I hadn't taken. Me in aisle 9, dolls crowded around me, their eyes alive. I called for Dolores, but my voice bounced back, swallowed by giggles. My basket held a doll I didn't pick up, its face mine but cracked, its eyes sewn shut. On Reddit/Nosleep, A post titled Savannah Dollar Tree Dolls by Broken Toy 99 described a store where aisle 9 trapped shoppers, dolls whispering their flaws, Dolores smiling as they vanished. The cashier keeps them alive, they wrote. Their account gone. Another post mentioned a 1970s seamstress, Dolores' aunt, who cursed dolls in a Dollar Tree after vandals ruined her work, binding their spirits to trap the cruel. The welt spread, crescent marks up my arms, burning with each giggle. My phone flashed more photos, me, surrounded by dolls, my face splitting. Dolores appeared, her smile wide, her eyes reflecting mine. The dolls see, she said, her hand grazing my welts, pain flaring. I emailed Dr. Clara Holt, a Savannah folklorist, sending photos of my marks. She met me at a diner, her face pale. Those are doll marks, she said. The seamstress bound spirits to aisle 9, targeting the angry. She showed a 1973 journal, shoppers vanishing, their faces on dolls. Break the main doll, she urged. That night, the store stayed open, giggles deafening, the air thick with rot. I smashed the porcelain doll, revealing a core of writhing threads. Dolores' laughter echoed as the shelves collapsed. I fled, the store dissolving into mist. In my apartment, the welts faded, but my sketches drew dolls with my face, giggling. The November fog blanketed Asheville, North Carolina, the Blue Ridge Mountains looming like silent sentinels beyond the city's edge. The Dollar Tree on Patton Avenue sat in a crumbling plaza, its sign buzzing erratically, casting a pale glow over the empty lot. I, Lucas Bennett, 29, a struggling musician, stopped by to grab candles for a gig, hoping to set a mood to win back my band's trust after a drunken outburst cost us a record deal. My life was spiraling, gigless, broke, and dodging my landlord. The store's website promised deals for all, but ex-posts on hashtag #AshevilleWeird warned of flickering candles, aisles that trapped you, and a cashier, Ezra, whose voice chilled your bones. My ex-bandmate, Tara, had urged me to avoid cheap stores, citing my nightmares, waking at 4:44 a.m., smelling smoke and hearing a crackle. I needed those candles to rebuild, but this Dollar Tree held something that fed on my regret. The store's interior was dim, fluorescence humming, shelves overflowing with plastic wreaths and chipped mugs. The air was dry, tinged with a smoky scent, like wax burned too long. Ezra, a tall man in his 70s with a gaunt face and eyes like dying coals, stood at the register, his name tag smudged. "Welcome," he said, his voice a low crackle, his gaze searing. "Rules: don't light the candles in aisle 4, don't move them, and be out by 9 p.m. His fingers, gnarled like burnt wood, handed me a basket. I muttered thanks and headed for the candle section. Aisle 4, labeled decor, was lined with candles, tapers, votives, jars, their wicks blackened, some dripping upward, defying gravity. A jar candle at the aisle's end flickered, though unlit. "Why not light them?" I asked. Ezra's eyes narrowed. "They burn what's inside you." He turned away, his shadow curling like smoke. I grabbed a basket, the store silent except for the hum of lights. The candles were in aisle 3. I stepped into aisle 4, the air hotter, the smoky scent choking. I reached for a taper, but its wick flared, unlit, the flame bending toward me. My fingers stung, marked with faint, waxy streaks like melted skin. A crackle, like fire-eating wood, filled the aisle, followed by a whisper in my voice. "Lucas, you broke us." My pulse surged. The aisle seemed to narrow, shelves tilting, candles dripping upward, wax pooling on the ceiling. My phone died, its screen flashing a video I didn't record. Me in aisle 4, flames licking my hands, my face melting. I shouted for Ezra, but the aisle stretched, the exit gone, candles flaring in unison. My basket held a candle I didn't choose, its wax pulsing like flesh. On Reddit's /Nosleep, a post titled "Asheville Dollar Tree Flames" by Burnt Melody described aisle for trapping shoppers, candles burning their regrets, Ezra watching as they vanished. "The cashier fuels it," they wrote. Account deleted. A local blog mentioned a 1960s fire in a Dollar Tree, started by a worker, Ezra's uncle, who cursed the candles to trap the reckless. The streak spread, waxy burns up my arms, searing with each crackle. My phone played more videos, me aflame, screaming my failures. Ezra appeared, his smile sharp, eyes glowing like embers. "The candles, no," he said, his touch burning my marked arm. I emailed Dr. Nora Klein, a Nashville historian, sending photos of my burns. She met me at a cafe, her face grim. "Those are fire marks," she said. The worker bound a spirit to aisle 4's candles, targeting the careless. She showed a 1967 log. Shoppers vanishing, their skin waxed. "Smash the main candle," she urged. That night, the store glowed, flames roaring, the air thick with smoke. I shattered the jar candle, revealing a core of molten threads. Ezra's form flickered, his laughter crackling as the shelves burned. I fled, the store dissolving into fog. In my studio, the burns faded, but my guitar strummed itself, and my reflection flickered with flames. The August humidity smothered Chattanooga, Tennessee, the air thick with the scent of river mud and a faint, plasticky tang, like melted toys left in the sun. The Dollar Tree on Market Street hulkied in a faded strip mall, its sign flickering, casting eerie shadows across the cracked pavement. I, Tyler Reed, 32, a mechanic scraping by, stopped by to grab toys for my nephew's birthday, hoping to mend ties with my sister after a fight. She blamed me for our parents' financial ruin after I borrowed money and never repaid. The store sign boasted toys for $1, but ex-posts on hashtag Chattanooga Creepy warned of toys moving at night, owls that trapped you, and a cashier, Myrtle, whose laugh echoed wrong. My sister, Ellie, had cautioned against cheap stores, citing my nightmares. Waking at 1:11 a.m., hearing giggles and tiny wheels rolling. I needed those toys to make amends. But this Dollar Tree held something that knew my debts. The store was a maze of cluttered shelves, plastic dinosaurs, knockoff dolls, toy cars with chipped paint, lit by buzzing fluorescents. The air was stale, heavy with that plasticky stench. Myrtle, a stout woman in her 60s with greasy hair and eyes like cracked plastic, stood at the register, her name tag bent. "Welcome," she said, her voice a grating chuckle, her gaze drilling into me. "Rules: don't play with toys in aisle 12, don't rearrange them, and leave before closing." Her laugh lingered as she handed me a basket, her hands cold. I nodded uneasy and headed for the toy section. Aisle 12, labeled kids, was packed with toys, their eyes glinting, some with limbs twisted wrong. A toy car at the aisle's end rolled slightly, unprompted. "Why not play with them?" I asked. Myrtle's chuckle sharpened. "They play back." She turned away, her shadow jittering like a broken toy. I grabbed a basket, the store silent, no other customers. The toys were in aisle 11, but I entered aisle 12, the air colder, the plastic stench choking. I reached for a dinosaur, but it twitched, its jaws snapping. My fingers stung, marked with faint, gear-like cuts, like tiny teeth. A giggle, mechanical and shrill, echoed, followed by a whisper in my voice. "Tyler, you owe." My heart pounded. The aisle stretched, shelves crowding, toys moving, cars rolling, dolls turning, a jack-in-the-box popping endlessly. My phone died, its screen flashing a video I didn't record. Me in aisle 12, toys circling, my face blank. I shouted for Myrtle, but the aisle looped, the exit gone, toys chattering like teeth. My basket held a doll I didn't pick, its eyes blinking, its mouth whispering my name. On Reddit's /Nosleep, a post titled "Chattanooga Dollar Tree Toys" by Play No More described aisle 12 trapping shoppers, toys playing their debts, Myrtle laughing as they vanished. The cashier winds them. They wrote, "Account gone." A local forum mentioned a 1990s toy maker, Myrtle's cousin, who cursed toys after a theft, binding spirits to trap debtors. The cuts spread, gear-like marks up my arms, bleeding faintly. My phone played more videos, me, trapped, toys tearing my skin. Myrtle appeared, her laugh echoing, eyes reflecting mine. "The toys know," she said, her touch cutting my arm. I emailed Dr. Lila Thorne, a Chattanooga historian, sending photos of my cuts. She met me at a diner, her face grim. "Those are toy marks," she said. "The toy maker bound spirits to aisle 12, targeting debtors." She showed a 1992 log, shoppers vanishing, their skin cut. "Destroy the main toy," she urged. That night, the store stayed open, toys screeching, the air thick with plastic. I smashed the jack-in-the-box, revealing a core of spinning gears. Myrtle's laughter roared as the shelves collapsed. I fled, the store dissolving into mist. In my garage, the cuts faded, but my tools moved at night, giggling. The September dusk settled over Roanoke, Virginia, the Blue Ridge Mountains casting long shadows across the city's edge. The Dollar Tree on Franklin Road stood in a rundown plaza, its sign sparking, illuminating the cracked asphalt and fits. I, Zoe Hart, 26, a part-time librarian, stopped by to grab notebooks for a poetry workshop, hoping to rebuild my confidence after plagiarizing a poem, costing me a scholarship. My life was fraying, living with my parents, avoiding my mentor's calls. The store's website promised school supplies for less, but ex-posts on hashtag Roanoke Oddities mentioned shelves humming, aisles shifting, and the cashier, Silas, whose voice carried your secrets. My mother, Diane, had warned against discount stores, citing my nightmares, waking at 5:55 a.m., hearing a chorus chanting my name. I needed those notebooks to start over. But this Dollar Tree held something that knew my theft. The store was a labyrinth of cluttered shelves, pens, notepads, plastic bins, lit by flickering fluorescents. The air was heavy, smelling of ink and a sharp, metallic bite, like old blood. Silas, a lean man in his 60s with a bald head and eyes like rusted nails, stood at the register, his name tag scratched. "Welcome," he said, his voice a low hum, his gaze cutting through me. "Rules: don't write in aisle 6, don't move the shelves, and leave before dark." His fingers, stained black, handed me a basket. I nodded, uneasy, and headed for the stationery section. Aisle 6, labeled office, was packed with notebooks, their pages yellowed, some scribbled with words I couldn't read. A shelf at the aisle's end vibrated faintly, its metal etched with jagged lines. "Why not write?" I asked. Silas's lips twitched. "The shelves read you." He turned away, his shadow humming faintly. I grabbed a basket, the store silent, no other shoppers. The notebooks were in aisle 5, but I entered aisle 6, the air colder, the metallic scent stinging. I touched a notebook, its pages warm, words forming my plagiarism. My palm stung, marked with faint, ink-like stains, like smeared letters. A hum, like voices singing, filled the aisle, chanting, "Zoe, you stole." My pulse raced. The aisle stretched, shelves vibrating, notebooks flipping open, pages scrawling my name. My phone died, its screen flashing a note I didn't write. "Zoe, confess." I called for Silas, but the aisle looped, the exit gone, shelves singing my sins. My basket held a notebook I didn't choose, its pages bleeding ink in my handwriting. On Reddit's /Nosleep, a post titled "Roanoke Dollar Tree Song" by Ink Echo described aisle 6 trapping shoppers, shelves chanting their wrongs, Silas smirking as they vanished. "The cashier listens," they wrote, account deleted. A local blog mentioned a 1980s librarian, Silas's sister, who cursed shelves after theft, binding a spirit to trap plagiarists. The stain spread, inky marks up my arms, burning with each chant. My phone displayed more notes, my secret scrawled. Silas appeared, his hum matching the shelves, eyes reflecting mine. "The shelves know," he said, his touch burning my arm. I emailed Dr. Samuel Klein, a Roanoke historian, sending photos of my stains. He met me at a diner, his face grim. "Those are ink marks," he said. The librarian bound a spirit to aisle 6, targeting thieves. He showed a 1984 log, shoppers vanishing, their skin inked. "Destroy the main shelf," he urged. That night, the store hummed, the air thick with ink. I smashed the shelf, revealing a core of writhing pages. Silas's hum roared as the aisles collapsed. I fled, the store dissolving into fog. In my room, the stains faded, but my poems wrote themselves, chanting. The October breeze swept through Charleston, West Virginia, carrying the scent of the Kanawha River and a faint, earthy reek like wet straw gone sour. The Dollar Tree on Patrick Street stood in a faded lot, its sign buzzing faintly, casting a sickly glow over the uneven pavement. I, Rachel Voss, 30, a nurse's aide, stopped by to grab baskets for a hospital fundraiser, hoping to prove my worth after a medication error nearly cost a patient's life. My reputation was in tatters, my colleagues distant, my rent overdue. The store promised storage solutions, but ex-posts on #CharlestonChills warned of baskets moving, aisle-swallowing shoppers, and a cashier, Beatrice, whose whispers chilled your spine. My father, Paul, had warned against bargain stores, citing my nightmares. Waking at 6 hours, 66 minutes a.m., hearing rustling and my name in the dark. I needed those baskets to redeem myself, but this Dollar Tree held something that knew my mistakes. The store was a jumble of shelves, plastic bins, cheap towels, fake flowers, lit by stuttering fluorescents. The air was damp, smelling of straw and decay. Beatrice, a short woman in her 60s with matted hair and eyes like murky water, stood at the register, her name tag scratched. "Welcome," she said, her voice a soft rustle, her gaze locking onto mine. "Rules: don't open baskets in aisle 8, don't rearrange them, and leave before dusk." Her fingers, rough like bark, handed me a basket. I nodded, uneasy, and headed for the storage section. Aisle 8, labeled organizers, was lined with baskets, wicker, plastic, straw, their lids rattling faintly. A wicker basket at the aisle's end pulsed, its weave tightening. "Why not open them?" I asked. Beatrice's lips curled. "They hold what you hide." She turned away, her shadow slithering across the floor. I grabbed a basket, the store silent, no other customers. The storage section was in aisle 7, but I entered aisle 8. The air colder, the straw scent choking. I touched a basket, its lid warm, popping open to reveal my patient's chart, blood-stained. My hand stung, marked with faint, weave-like burns, like braided scars. A rustle, like straw shifting, echoed, followed by a whisper in my voice. "Rachel, you failed." My heart pounded. The aisle stretched, baskets rattling, lids opening to reveal my fears, bloody gauze, broken syringes. My phone died, its screen flashing a photo I didn't take. Me in aisle 8, baskets spilling my face. I called for Beatrice, but the aisle looped, the exit gone, baskets whispering my name. My basket held a wicker lid I didn't choose, pulsing with my pulse. On Reddit's /Nosleep, a post titled "Charleston Dollar Tree Trap" by Weave Wraith described aisle 8 trapping shoppers, baskets spilling their fears, Beatrice watching as they vanished. "The cashier fills them," they wrote. Account deleted. A local blog mentioned a 1970s nurse, Beatrice's mother, who cursed baskets after hospital theft, binding a spirit to trap the negligent. The burn spread, weave like scars up my arms, searing with each rustle. My phone showed more photos, me, drowning in straw, my eyes empty. Beatrice appeared, her whisper echoing, eyes reflecting mine. "The baskets know," she said, her touch burning my arm. I emailed Dr. Elias Kane, a Charleston historian, sending photos of my scars. He met me at a diner, his face grim. "Those are basket marks," he said. "The nurse bound a spirit to aisle 8, targeting the careless." He showed a 1975 log. Shoppers vanishing, their skin scarred. "Destroy the main basket," he urged. That night, the store stayed open, baskets rustling, the air thick with decay. I burned the wicker basket, revealing a core of twisted straw. Beatrice's whispers roared as the shelves collapsed. I fled, the store dissolving into mist. In my hospital, the scars faded, but my bandages rustled, and my reflection whispered my name. The July twilight draped Frederick, Maryland, the air heavy with the scent of blooming honeysuckle and a faint, electric buzz, like a storm about to break. The Dollar Tree on West Patrick Street stood in a tired strip mall, its sign flickering, casting jagged pulses across the lot. I, Ethan Caldwell, 31, a freelance coder, stopped by to grab light bulbs for my new apartment, hoping to start fresh after a hacking scandal. Reaching a client's database cost me my contracts. My life was in chaos, my savings drained, my reputation shattered. The store promised lighting for less, but ex-posts on hashtag Frederick Frights warned of bulbs that flickered oddly, aisles that felt wrong, and cashier Gideon, whose gaze burned. My cousin, Nate, had warned against discount stores, citing my nightmares. Waking at 7 hours, 77 minutes a.m., seeing lights pulse and my shadow move alone. I needed those bulbs to light my way, but this Dollar Tree held something that stole my shadow. The store was a clutter of shelves, cheap lamps, batteries, plastic flowers, lit by harsh fluorescence. The air was charged, smelling of ozone and burnt wiring. Gideon, a wiry man in his 60s with a shaved head and eyes like live wires, stood at the register, his name tag sparking faintly. "Welcome," he said, his voice a low buzz, his gaze electrifying. "Rules: don't touch the bulbs in aisle 10, don't turn them on, and leave before 8 p.m. His fingers, calloused, handed me a basket. I nodded uneasy and headed for the lighting section. Aisle 10, labeled electronics, was lined with bulbs, LEDs, incandescents, fluorescents, some flickering unplugged. A bulb at the aisle's end pulsed, its glass etched with jagged cracks. "Why not touch the bulbs?" I asked. Gideon's eyes sparked. "They take what you hide." He turned away, his shadow flickering like a bad signal. I grabbed a basket, the store silent, no other shoppers. The bulbs were in aisle 9, but I entered aisle 10, the air hotter, the ozone scent stinging. I touched a bulb, its glass scalding, pulsing with light. My hands burned, marked with faint, crack-like scars, like shattered glass. A buzz, like a swarm of bees, filled the aisle, followed by a whisper in my voice. "Ethan, you broke trust." My heart raced. The aisle stretched, bulbs flaring, my shadow twisting on the floor, moving without me. My phone died, its screen flashing a video I didn't record. Me in aisle 10, my shadow detaching, eyes glowing. I called for Gideon, but the aisle looped, the exit gone, bulbs buzzing my name. My basket held a bulb I didn't choose, pulsing with my heartbeat. On Reddit's /NoSleep, a post titled "Frederick Dollar Tree Lights" by Shadow Spark described aisle 10 trapping shoppers, bulbs stealing shadows, Gideon watching as they vanished. "The cashier powers it," they wrote. Account deleted. A local blog mentioned a 1980s electrician, Gideon's father, who cursed bulbs after theft, binding a spirit to trap deceivers. The scars spread, crack-like marks up my arms, burning with each buzz. My phone played more videos, my shadow strangling me. Gideon appeared, his buzz echoing, eyes sparking. "The lights know," he said, his touch shocking my arm. I emailed Dr. Mara Holt, Frederick historian, sending photos of my scars. She met me at a diner, her face grim. "Those are light marks," she said. "The electrician bound a spirit to aisle 10, targeting liars." She showed a 1988 log. Shoppers vanishing, their shadows gone. "Destroy the main bulb," she urged. That night, the store glowed, was deafening, the air thick with ozone. I shattered the bulb, revealing a core of writhing sparks. Gideon's buzz roared as the shelves collapsed. I fled, the store dissolving into fog. In my apartment, the scars faded, but my shadow flickered and my reflection buzzed. The October wind howled through Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, carrying the scent of the Susquehanna River and a faint, oily reek, like gears left to rust. The Dollar Tree on Derry Street crouched in a decaying strip mall, its sign stuttering, casting broken light across the lot. I, Sarah Klein, 33, a former accountant, stopped by to grab clocks for my new office, hoping to rebuild after falsifying records cost me my job and trust. My life was in shambles, savings gone, family distant. The store promised timekeepers for $1, but ex-posts on hashtag Harrisburg haunts warned of clocks ticking backward, owls trapping shoppers, and a cashier, Amos, whose voice echoed your lies. My brother, Dan, had warned against discount stores, citing my nightmares, waking at 8 hours 88 minutes p.m., hearing ticks and my name in the dark. I needed those clocks to mark a new start, but this Dollar Tree held something that countered my deceit. The store was a chaos of shelves, plastic clocks, cheap frames, fake plants, lit by dim fluorescence. The air was heavy, smelling of oil and dust. Amos, a stooped man in his 70s with a grizzled beard and eyes like tarnished brass, stood at the register, his name tag warped. "Welcome," he said, his voice a slow tick, his gaze piercing. "Rules: don't wind clocks in aisle 5, don't move them, and leave before 7 p.m. His fingers, greasy, handed me a basket. I nodded, uneasy, and headed for the clock section. Aisle 5, labeled home decor, was lined with clocks, wall, desk, digital, the hands moving erratically, some backward. A wall clock at the aisles and ticked loudly, its face etched with gear-like scratches. "Why not wind them?" I asked. Amos's eyes glinted. "They count what you hide." He turned away, his shadow ticking like a metronome. I grabbed a basket, the store silent, no other shoppers. The clocks were in aisle 4, but I entered aisle 5, the air colder, the oily scent choking. I touched a clock, its hand spinning backward, its face warm. My fingers stung, marked with faint, gear-like burns, like cog imprints. A tick, like a heartbeat, filled the aisle, followed by a whisper in my voice. "Sarah, you lied." My pulse surged. The aisle stretched, clocks ticking in unison, hands forming my name. My phone died, its screen flashing a video I didn't record. Me in aisle 5, clock spinning, my face distorted. I called for Amos, but the aisle looped, the exit gone, clocks chanting my lies. My basket held a clock I didn't choose, its hands ticking my pulse. On Reddit's /nosleep, a post titled Harrisburg Dollar Tree Ticks by TimeLost88 described aisle 5 trapping shoppers, clocks counting their lies, Amos watching as they vanished. "The cashier winds it," they wrote, account deleted. A local blog mentioned a 1970s clockmaker, Amos's father, who cursed clocks after a fraud, binding a spirit to trap deceivers. The burn spread, gear-like marks up my arms, searing with each tick. My phone played more videos, me, trapped, clocks carving my skin. Amos appeared, his tick echoing, eyes reflecting mine. "The clocks know," he said, his touch burning my arm. I emailed Dr. Rachel Stone, a Harrisburg historian, sending photos of my burns. She met me at a diner, her face grim. "Those are clock marks," she said. "The clockmaker bound a spirit to aisle 5, targeting liars." She showed a 1978 log. Shoppers vanishing, their skin burned. "Destroy the main clock," she urged. That night, the store ticked, the air thick with oil. I smashed the wall clock, revealing a core of spinning gears. Amos's tick roared as the shelves collapsed. I fled, the store dissolving into fog. In my office, the burns faded, but my watch ticked backward and my reflection whispered ticks. The September rain lashed Augusta, Maine, the air heavy with the scent of the Kennebec River and a faint, chalky dust like shattered porcelain. The Dollar Tree on Western Avenue stood in a sagging plaza, its sign dim, casting a ghostly glow over the wet pavement. I, Noah Feldman, 29, a former chef, stopped by to grab plates for a pop-up dinner, hoping to revive my career after a health violation. Serving undercooked food shut my restaurant. My life was crumbling, debts piling, friends gone. The store promised kitchenware for $1, but ex-posts on hashtag Augusta Erie warned of plates cracking, house trapping shoppers, and a cashier, Esther, whose gaze cut deep. My uncle, Ben, had warned against discount stores, citing my nightmares. Waking at 9 hours, 99 minutes p.m., hearing shattering and my name in the dark. I needed those plates to start over. But this Dollar Tree held something that knew my failures. The store was a mess of shelves, mismatched plates, plastic cups, fake candles, lit by flickering lights. The air was dry, smelling of dust and broken china. Esther, a thin woman in her 60s with white hair and eyes like chipped porcelain, stood at the register, her name tag cracked. "Welcome," she said, her voice a sharp crack, her gaze slicing. "Rules: don't touch plates in aisle 3, don't stack them, and leave before 6 p.m. Her fingers, pale, handed me a basket. I nodded uneasy and headed for the kitchen section. Aisle 3, labeled dining, was lined with plates, ceramic, plastic, glass, their edges chipped, some cracked. A ceramic plate at the aisle's end shimmered, its cracks forming my face. "Why not touch the plates?" I asked. Esther's lips curled. "They break what you broke." She turned away, her shadow splintering like glass. I grabbed a basket, the store silent, no other shoppers. The plates were in aisle 2, but I entered aisle 3, the air colder, the chalky scent stinging. I touched a plate, its surface scalding, cracking under my fingers. My hands burned, marked with faint, shard-like scars, like broken edges. A shatter, like glass exploding, filled the aisle, followed by a whisper in my voice. "No, are you poisoned?" My heart raced. The aisle stretched, plates cracking, shards floating, forming my past mistakes. My phone died, its screen flashing a photo I didn't take. Me in aisle 3, shards piercing my skin. I called for Esther, but the aisle looped, the exit gone, plates chanting my name. My basket held a plate I didn't choose, its cracks pulsing. On Reddit's /Nosleep, a post titled "Augusta Dollar Tree Shards" by Cracked Chef described aisle 3 trapping shoppers, plates breaking their past, Esther watching as they vanished. "The cashier shapes it," they wrote. Account deleted. A local blog mentioned a 1980s chef, Esther's sister, who cursed plates after poisoning, binding a spirit to trap the reckless. The scars spread, shard-like marks up my arms, searing with each shatter. My phone showed more photos, me, bleeding, plates forming my face. Esther appeared, her crack echoing, eyes reflecting mine. "The plates know," she said, her touch shattering my arm. I emailed Dr. Lila Reed, an Augusta historian, sending photos of my scars. She met me at a diner, her face grim. "Those are plate marks," she said. "The chef bound a spirit to aisle 3, targeting the careless." She showed a 1982 log, shoppers vanishing, their skin scarred. "Destroy the main plate," she urged. That night, the store cracked, the air thick with dust. I shattered the ceramic plate, revealing a core of jagged shards. Esther's crack roared as the shelves collapsed. I fled, the store dissolving into rain. In my kitchen, the scars faded, but my dishes shattered and my reflection cracked. The October frost bit at Concord, New Hampshire. The air sharp with the scent of pine and a faint, floral decay, like petals rotting in the dark. The Dollar Tree on Loudon Road sat in a desolate plaza, its sign flickering, casting a pale glow over the icy pavement. I, Ava Morse, 28, a florist, stopped by to grab fake flowers for a client's budget wedding, hoping to salvage my shop after a scam. Selling dyed flowers as rare lost me customers. My life was collapsing. Debts mounting, my sister estranged. The store promised floral deals, but ex-posts on #ConcordCreeps warned of flowers wilting oddly. I was trapping shoppers, and a cashier, Vera, whose stare felt like thorns. My sister, Claire, had warned against discount stores, citing my nightmares, waking at 10:10 p.m., smelling flowers and hearing rustling. I needed those flowers to keep my shop, but this Dollar Tree held something that knew my fraud. The store was a clutter of shelves, plastic roses, fake lilies, cheap vases, lit by dim lights. The air was heavy, smelling of decay and wax. "Vera, wiry woman in her 60s with tangled hair and eyes like wilted petals, stood at the register. Her name tag faded. "Welcome," she said, her voice a soft rustle, her gaze piercing. "Rules: don't touch flowers in aisle 2, don't smell them, and leave before 5 p.m. Her fingers, stained green, handed me a basket. I nodded, uneasy, and headed for the floral section. Aisle 2, labeled crafts, was lined with fake flowers, their petals curling unnaturally, some dripping sap. A plastic rose at the aisle's end pulsed, its petals etched with vein-like marks. Why not touch the flowers? I asked. Vera's eyes darkened. "They bloom what you hide." She turned away, her shadow curling like vines. I grabbed a basket, the store silent, no other shoppers. The flowers were in aisle 1, but I entered aisle 2, the air colder, the floral scent choking. I touched a lily, its petals scalding, blooming my face. My hands burned, marked with faint, petal-like scars, like pressed flowers. A rustle, like leaves shifting, filled the aisle, followed by a whisper in my voice. "Ava, you cheated." My heart raced. The aisle stretched, flowers wilting, petals forming my scams. My phone died, its screen flashing a photo I didn't take. Me in aisle 2, flowers growing from my skin. I called for Vera, but the aisle looped, the exit gone, flowers whispering my name. My basket held a rose I didn't choose, its petals pulsing. On Reddit's /NoSleep, a post titled "Concord Dollar Tree Blooms" by Petal Ghost described aisle 2 trapping shoppers, flowers blooming their shame, Vera watching as they vanished. "The cashier plants it," they wrote. Account deleted. A local blog mentioned a 1980s florist, Vera's aunt, who cursed flowers after a fraud, binding a spirit to trap deceivers. The scars spread, petal-like marks up my arms, searing with each rustle. My phone showed more photos, me, sprouting petals, eyes empty. Vera appeared, her rustle echoing, eyes reflecting mine. "The flowers know," she said, her touch burning my arm. I emailed Dr. Amos Reed, a Concord historian, sending photos of my scars. He met me at a diner, his face grim. "Those are flower marks," he said. "The florist bound a spirit to aisle 2, targeting liars." He showed a 1986 log. Shoppers vanishing, their skin petaled. "Destroy the main rose," he urged. That night, the store bloomed, the air thick with decay. I burned a rose, revealing a core of writhing vines. Vera's rustle roared as the shelves collapsed. I fled, the store dissolving into frost. In my shop, the scars faded, but my flowers wilted and my reflection bloomed.